Hey folks, Stuart here, and I wanted to have a bit of a chat with you today about rethinking decisions and why you rethink decisions that you've already made, how that can really cause a lot of mental and emotional exhaustion. Lots of buzzwords like overthinking and overwhelm and cognitive overload, mental noise, all of these buzzwords, we know them, right? And I want to just explore a bit of that today with you. And ultimately, what it can look like is, you send a message on your phone, you put your phone down, and then a few hours later you pick up your phone and you look at the message you wrote and you think, I could have written that sentence differently, or that didn't land quite as I'd expected or hoped. And the decision that you made and what you sent in that message just doesn't feel finished, and it feels like it's still open in your mind. And now that you've gone back and re-looked as a sort of prompt of that questioning, you start adding these, I could have done this, I could have done that, and ultimately you just make more and more noise, right? And then you feel the unsettled emotions inside of the questioning of yourself. And then it feels like care. It feels like you're being observant, you're being diligent, you're being effective in having a look at these things and making sure that what you are sending out is effective and was the right decision. It was the right thing to send. It was, the outputs are going to be what you're looking to or seeking to achieve. And so it really does look like that's the case. And what we end up doing is creating a mental version of the circumstance versus the real event, the real situation, what actually happened. And this mental version has no measure, it has no end. And ultimately because the decision is made. Now you can always go and re-influence a decision, of course, but often it's about the questioning is what we're focusing on today, that sort of mentally couldn't go around and around. So what's really important to recognize in these instances is the what I'll call hindsight distortion. Is that ultimately and quite simply the information that you have now in the context is different to what it was when you made the decision to do what you did. And that's just the reality of it's always going to be the case. But we come to expect ourselves to be able to see beyond what we can see in the moment in this mental version of what's going on. Like, I should have been able to see this then. But the reality is at that time you didn't. And it wasn't necessarily readily available. And even if it was, you didn't see it, it wasn't obvious. And you sent what you sent with the information that you sent in the context that you sent it, and the decision that was made. So the distortion starts to actually become its own reality. And then what we end up doing is just this loop of revisiting. And, the example for you, an analogy, you guys know I love my analogies, is that you can't expect yourself to be able to have the view of the landscape around you to be the same from the bottom of the mountain as to once you've climbed to the top of the mountain. Clearly, when you get to the top of the mountain, the view is going to be far more vast and you're going to get a better idea of the landscape around you. So if we can recognize that this is a truth, that we will never have as much information as we will have, and we only have as much information as we do have, and when we make a decision, this doesn't mean we have to always make perfect decisions, because expecting that of ourselves is just unrealistic. We are organic animals that have emotions, and some days we feel on top form, some days we don't. Some hours we feel on top form, some days we don't, some hours we don't. And ultimately, expecting ourselves to always be perfect is going to lead to what? More stress, more overload, more cognitive noise, mental noise, thinking, more expectations of yourself. And guess what? Disappointment, because you can't always be that. We can always be striving to get ourselves to the best possible places, looking after ourselves physically, psychologically, emotionally, doing things that keep us supported and balanced. But it's never going to be perfect. There's no such thing as the balance stopping at a perfect balance and that's it. For the rest of your life, the balance is going to tip. And it's our opportunity and, dare I say, responsibility to work on balancing that out. So in this instance, with the decisions that we make, it's important to recognize all of these points and give yourself a bit of a break, because you are always going to be moving forward and gathering more, having different perspectives, different opportunities within that. You can always delay decisions and explore more, But there's never going to be a perfect moment where it's going to be the perfect decision. I mean, think back in your life. Is there such a thing as a perfect decision? And perhaps you've had some great experiences, but the mass majority are a little bit of a, dare I say, a thumb suck of going into the world. So if you can shift your mentality, and this is the real trick with this, if you can shift your mentality to recognize that all of that's the case, and that if you can say to yourself, okay, so at the time, so now I'm revisiting this decision and it's going around and around in my mind. What do I notice that's different from when I made the decision to now? What do I notice that I could have done differently? And so from this perspective, I now see that. So what can I then learn from this observation that I can use going forwards? Now that might sound like a simple process. These things often sound very simple. Putting them into action can be a bit more complex, a bit more challenging. As we all know, those of us that have done any personal growth and development, whether intentionally or not, you've all done it, because you've all got to this point, and we're all as big, wonderful and beautiful as we are, making our way in this world. So if you can look at shifting it in that way, recognize that it sounds simple, but putting it into action will take repetition, it will take iteration for you to learn from. The more that you do that, though, over time, and if we look at the habit loop, which is going from the trigger or the thing that happens, then there's the routine, so the routine behavior, and then there's the reward of that. So what we want to be doing is looking at the trigger to the routine. So if in the moment you notice the thinking is happening, you're questioning a decision, you're relaying it in your mind, this is now the trigger. And the routine is most likely going to be, it's this beating up in your mind going over and over and over. But then what ends up happening is you feel this, you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your own identity to a degree, you're questioning your own worth. And we have a negativity bias as humans, as we've discussed in other videos and other conversations. And this is a survival mechanism, so we're easy to swing towards the negative. So, we'll sort of add it to, oh, here goes me again questioning, oh, I can never make decisions, I can't make good decisions, I can't trust myself, and this is an understandable set of thought processes that happen as a result of the emotions that we feel when we are thinking these thoughts. And it kind of becomes a bit of a loop between thought and emotion, and it just builds up this sort of negative feel towards yourself. And then that's not a nice state to be. We're going to be not clear, not focused, not enthused, not inspired, hard to be positive around things that we're doing and what we want to achieve. So then when we look at interrupting that, so when you can notice the trigger happen, so the thought process is happening, if we change the routine by saying, I recognize that I didn't have all the information that I have now. I didn't have the perspective I have now. And you may well have had access to all of it at that point. That's not the point. The point is when you made the decision or you did the thing, the context in which you did make the decision was what you felt was right at that moment. Now, whether it was right or not, or it could have been better or otherwise, that's opportunity for you to learn from. So this is the noticing. So in the routine, you notice the trigger is going on, then you shift and say, right, okay, so what do I know now that I didn't know then? Or what do I see now that I didn't see then? And how can I use that moving forwards? And ultimately, you start to shift the behavior, but it takes that interruption time and time again, because the automatic behavior is to do the questioning, because we've trained ourselves well over the years to question our decisions, to question these things, and we get into these behavior loops, and this is how human behavior works. So in order to change that, we have to be quite intentional about the noticing first. That's always the first step, is noticing, being aware of this happening, and then being really deliberate and intentional about shifting the behavior to what is going to serve you better. Because if you can look at how could I use this going forwards, what I've learned, next time you come to make a decision that's similar or otherwise, you have a tool to be able to observe rather than being stuck in the emotion and the thoughts of this, going around beating yourself up. You can stand outside and look at it and go, okay, from an objective perspective, what is this? And this is where we're moving into metacognition, which is the ability to observe our own thoughts. Now, we as human beings do have that ability, but it's something that takes real practice to get right. And this is one of those, in true Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi style, wax on, wax off, this kind of action ultimately helps flex those muscles, if you follow my analogy, to make you stronger in your ability to be able to observe your thoughts, observe your emotions. And there's lots of other lovely techniques that people use, from meditation to journaling to walking in nature. For me, I'm out here in nature, and this is where I can then think about things and does my mental health and my emotional health and physical health a world of good. So notice the things that work for you. And this today, what I'm giving you is an ability, or is an opportunity, should I say, to be able to notice when decisions are playing over in your mind. And you can use retrospect. You can think back to when has a decision been played over in your mind, going on and on and on, that you're not able to get past, and you find yourself beating yourself up. And you may still have some now that you're still beating yourself up for. It's not a matter of going through this process and suddenly everything's fine. It's all great and wonderful and the sun's shining and it's all lovely. That's not the point. The point is noticing these things, and each time it comes up, make that shift. What do I notice now that I didn't notice then? How can I use that moving forward? And you take much more agency in your life than just being a slave, being sort of bowled over by these feelings and thoughts. You can actually notice them and you can shift it and say, right, this is not serving me. It will keep coming back up because that's the natural state. But each time you shift it, you start to change the automatic behavior, and it will come up less and less. And you're more likely to go into the process of doing this than beating yourself up and questioning your decisions. You're going to be looking at it from the perspective of recognizing, and how can I use this to serve me moving forwards? And that just gives you so much more focus, clarity, reduces all this noise, all these feelings of resentment towards yourself, frustration, judgment, guilt, regret, whatever it may be. They're not helping you. So that doesn't mean you're not trying to just get rid of things or banishing any of these things to the dungeons, so to speak, but it's how can you use them to genuinely help you live your life in a way that's more aligned with who you are and what you want to achieve, and also helping yourself move as you move forwards in your life, to make sure that your natural and automatic behaviors become far more your choice and in line with what's going to help you. So remember, it is very important to recognize that whatever has happened has had value, and in that moment you made the decisions that you made because there was value to it. That value has likely served you in certain situations in your life. So we're not just looking at, as I say, sort of banishing these things to the dungeons. We want to recognize them, notice they have value, but how do I choose now to interact or deal with these things as and when they come up? And the more you do that, that'll affect all the areas of your life where there's automatic behaviors. You'll be able to notice sooner, that's interesting, that's happening. Recognize that. What might that be if it was different to me? How could I shift this that I can use it to my advantage? We are discussing, we have been actually in this last month, in the living room, we've been discussing mental noise and cognitive overload. So looking at, very real situations that people experience when it comes to decision making, as a lot of what we were talking about, and putting off decisions, not getting around to them, making the decision to not make a decision. It's still making a decision. So it's just recognizing what's going on for you, because when we can notice these things, a lot of the stuff that's tripping us up, which is a lot of it's the fearful feelings, right? We want to get away from fear and pain, and our brains are sort of are coded to take us away from pain and move us towards more pleasure, more sort of safety, survival. So, but what we do is we just feel this pain, in inverted commas, of the emotion, so we avoid it. And then we avoid making lots of decisions. So what decisions have you noticed that you might be avoiding? And what might be happening around that? Is it this mental noise that's going on? And if you were to actually look at the situation now from where you stand to where you were there when you made that decision, or didn't make the decision, made the decision to not make a decision, let's say, what do you now see, and how could you use that moving forward on that particular thing? Or maybe you can just let it go, because maybe you're just beating yourself up and it's not really serving you at all. And actually, with this recognition, okay, I recognize that wasn't great, but if I can use it as a learning opportunity, and I can choose to do this moving forwards, make the decision to to use this in a more constructive way for myself moving forwards, you start to actually really take more control and have more agency and ability in your life to live more balanced and more focused. Again, the seesaw is still going to swing. It's not about having the perfect balance, but it's just you can recognize when it's off kilter, and you start to learn what works for you specifically to bring you back. What could I do differently that would serve me, using what it is that I understand now from observing this situation? Really powerful stuff. So in the living room, we've been talking about this the last month. In the community, there's been some very powerful scenarios, people sharing decisions they've been putting off and getting to it. There's been lots of amazing things happening, from small to large. People have been putting decisions off for years, or they're beating themselves up for a decision that they've made, and just recognizing this process we're going through, and through a number of tools that we've used within the community over this time, people have really managed to unlock for themselves ways forward in making decisions, or also being able to put down decisions that were made and using it constructively, thus reducing a whole lot of mental and emotional noise. So if you want, come and join us. It's a great place to explore these, what might be still open loops in your mind, to explore moving forward how you can use what you have and to best tool you to live life in a way that is conducive with who you want to be. So from me and from Harlow, who is here with me around, there he is looking up at me, ready to go, continue on with our walk. We are coming to you from a beautiful forest. And thank you so much for tuning in, and lots more to come. And yeah, just one of the most important things with all of this work is be patient and compassionate with yourself. This is not a race, it's not a competition, it's your life, and that is the most important thing. So take your time, explore, be gentle, keep trying. Repetition is key. This is how we shift behaviors, noticing, shifting. And yeah, you've got this. We'll talk very soon. I'll see you in the living room.